2 men died over the holiday weekend while snowboarding at Mount Hood Meadows. Fox 12's John Hendricks is live on the mountain tonight with a look at what happened. John?
Well, Pete, both men were snowboarding in the Heather Canyon area. That part of Mount Hood is steep and the conditions are constantly changing. Meadows says they watch those conditions very carefully. Now, one of those men was found in a closed-off area. Up on Mount Hood today, there is a somber tone.
It's too bad that happened to those guys.
Over the holiday weekend, 2 people lost their lives at Mount Hood Meadows. On Sunday, the Hood River County Sheriff's Office says 45-year-old Ryan Zeitner of Portland fell while snowboarding and died.
The trial of Jeremy Christian in the deadly Max stabbings is nearly over. Tomorrow, the jury will hear closing arguments from both sides. Then it will be up to them to decide whether Christian is guilty of murder. Fox 12's Kelsey Watts is live tonight with the work being done ahead of all of that. Kelsey?
Well, Pete, today the jury was excused as lawyers on both sides worked with the judge today on what's called jury instructions. That is the specific language and guidance jury members will get as they deliberate each charge against Jeremy Christian. Remember, he's facing 12 criminal counts ranging from first-degree murder to menacing, and each of those charges is written with very specific language. So this part of the process really comes down to the significance of each word. For instance, where the term recklessly should be added to jury instructions, or referring to something as a dangerous weapon instead of a deadly weapon. All of that becomes significant because it could affect how a member of the jury decides guilt or innocence on any given charge. Christian has pleaded not guilty to every charge against him. His lawyers say the men who were stabbed were committing crimes and that Jeremy Christian acted in self-defense. Specifically, they argue that Micah Fletcher was engaged in coercion and third-degree assault when he tried to get Jeremy Christian off the Max train, and that Talisha Namkaimechi and Ricky Best were aiding and abetting him. Prosecutors disagree. They say there is no evidence to support that. Listen in.
It's just not true that Mr. Namkaimechi had no role in it. He's standing directly in front of Mr. Christian. He approached Mr. Christian. He's in his face. He's yelling at him. And Fletcher joins that, and so it's both of them in his face. It is true Mr. Best is hanging back, but he clearly took sides in his positioning and how he stood there and came close.
They are trying to make it so that just standing on a train with your hands full or with your hand on a stability bar, makes you liable and elevates conduct of one person to that of conduct being aided by another person actually present. I don't think that's what the law says or means.
No doubt those themes from the defense and the prosecutors will come up again tomorrow as both sides make their closing arguments. And Pete, one other note tonight, the jury of 12 has to come to a unanimous decision about whether Jeremy Christian is guilty on the 2 counts of first-degree murder he's facing. But on every other criminal charge, they can convict by a margin of 10-2. We do expect this case to be in their hands sometime tomorrow after closing arguments, and we will be in the courtroom. Live in downtown Portland, Kelsey Watts, Fox 12 Oregon.
On the mountain. Then on Monday, the sheriff's office says they got a report of a missing person, 47-year-old Tim Bowders of Sunnyvale, California, who was last heard from on Friday. He was apparently snowboarding alone. Searchers found his body Monday evening.
It's extremely hard for the families, and our hearts go out for those guys.
Both men had been snowboarding in the Heather Canyon area.
Heather Canyon is by far the toughest terrain on the mountain. Everything in there is black diamond or double black diamond.
This is video from last year and shows how steep the area is and why people love to ski or snowboard that part of the mountain. General Manager Greg Peck says it is monitored closely.
There are times of the year where we close it down. There are times of the year we close it down midday because conditions are not favorable for us.
I heard from actually some other ski patrol people that there was sheets of ice in there.
Jill Trolson says Ski Patrol keeps a close eye on it. She skied Heather Canyon today and says you had to pick your line.
They just said to me, if you look before you go, you plan your spot. It was soft and it was beautiful and it was absolutely heavenly.
She says there were ice sheets that caught one snowboarder off guard, sending him flying down the mountain.
He was accomplished enough to get himself turned around and get his board under him, and it caught on some ice and it launched him back out into the soft snow.
She echoes a message from mountain staff. Always know the conditions and don't ride alone.
Pay attention to where you're going and watch where you're going.
Now, Heather Canyon was open today. Staff here at Meadows say the body of Tim Bowders was found in a closed-off area of Heather Canyon. Reporting live tonight, John Hendricks, Fox 12 Oregon.